Pokemon X, Y, and Z, a series directed by Tetsuo Yajima, is one of my favorite seasons of the Pokemon anime, for multiple reasons. From its developed characters, theming, battles, and plot structure, it's a recipe for a thrill of a series, with small details being more evident upon rewatching. And despite some of the flaws and drawbacks it undoubtedly has, to me the strengths and highs of the series are amongst the highest I've seen in the anime. One of these great aspects comes from an episode that's ironically very controversial and despised. The Kalos League opening is widely regarded amongst the fanbase as one of the worst opening episodes to Pokemon League. With comments ranging from poorly paced, high-bait, and useless, it doesn't leave room for proper or constructive discussion. However, like many things of Pokemon XY, there's more to it than meets the eye. It's a unique and a one-of-a-kind episode that does a lot in its runtime, and in my opinion, one of the most tightly scripted episodes XY has produced. In that, it's packed with detail and meaning, something that's apparent when given a closer look. The episode kicks off with Malva present at the League, interviewing different trainers and reporting the current and future events of the Kalos League. Immediately, it's an indicator and sign that Team Flare, the antagonist of the region, would have some sort of significance or role in the League, based on pre-existing knowledge that Malva is involved with them in some way or form. And this is important since the Team Flare arc is the definitive climax of the series. This is what distinguishes the Kalos League from the others, in that compared to the likes of Sinnoh, it isn't the culmination of Ash's journey and his experiences, not to an extent at least. And while it is understandable why some people might not prefer this style, given it deviates from the classic Pokemon formula, it undoubtedly fuels and drives home the narrative. After a quick interview reaffirming Ash's desire and determination to win the league, in no time we are introduced to arguably the most important character in this episode. Everett, who, upon first glance, comes off as edgy and punk-like, plays a vital role in regards to the ideas and theming of the episode. Annoyed by his confident declaration, he requests to battle Ash, and Ash, being who he is, compulsively agrees, not before Serena abruptly stops him, which, might I mention, is a nice way to show her confidence over time compared to her in the beginning of the series. However, before Ash leaves, he promises Everett that he'll battle him again the next time they meet, marking a subplot that would be resolved later on. The next scene isn't particularly outstanding, but it does have a narrative effect, albeit subtle in some areas. An obvious deduction would be Ash and Sawyer acknowledging each other, shifting to a flashback where they promised each other that they would both make it to the League, reiterating Sawyer's faith in Ash and hints towards the inevitable battle that would conclude their rivalry. We then are shown some nice mingling between Tierno, Trevor and the group, before we're cut to a shot where Sycamore attempts to talk to Alan but is brushed off. This scene, while conceptually basic, actually does a pretty neat job in presenting the different thoughts, goals and drives amongst the characters. Through Sawyer, we're shown how reserved he is, only acknowledging Ash in the crowd. His intentions and determination to face Ash is clear as daylight. While on the other hand we have Tierno and Trevor, the standard rivals of the region, who present themselves to be more friendly and outgoing, but not nearly as focused as the others. Then, we have one of the key aspects and highlights of the episode. Ash and Alan, both explicitly shown as foils, reveal some very significant details about their character and motivations. The former, who is presented to be more sociable, friendly, and the latter who reveals how distant and detached he is, avoiding the people who care about him, in this case Professor Sycamore, and someone who doesn't have the intentions in winning the league, but rather just to face Ash and gather more Mega Evolution energy from there. This would imply that Alan's goal is conflicting with the other participants' intentions to win the league. In other words, Alan doesn't care about people's dreams, goals and desires. He's power hungry and desperate to be the strongest when he really has no reason to. Compare that to Ash and the contrast becomes apparent. It's a sentiment that would be elaborated later in the episode. Furthermore, once the matchups are announced, we are shown Ash acknowledging his opponent, which isn't the case with Alan. The focus then shifts to Trevor, who has a quote-unquote secret plan to defeat Alan, Mega Evolution, implying his source of power, trump card, and his reliance on it. This reliance becomes more evident when Trevor uses it at the beginning of his battle, and while Alan does the same, he does it for the sole reason to win easily, because to him, Trevor isn't someone he deems worthy as a foe. His goal is to get to Ash, and he's willing to steamroll others to achieve that without considering how people he trampled might feel. It establishes how dangerously strong and capable of a foil Alan is, easily solidifying himself amongst the crowd as one of the top and anticipated trainers to win the league. And while he continues to mercilessly one-shot his opponent's Pokemon, Ash rushes his way to face in the second round, stumbling upon Everett in the hallways. This infamously controversial scene is the origin of the hype bait comment I mentioned earlier, and while on the surface it might come across that way, A close introspection reveals otherwise. The scene isn't supposed to get the audience excited that Ash was going to win the league, or to guarantee that he will win the league, but rather to intimately show the contrast between Ash and Alan, and to subtly show the tier of the trainers in the Pokemon world. The very fact that the battle and the scene is happening simultaneously should be evidence enough that this was intentional. To recall, at the beginning of the episode, it was established that Ash promised Everett that he'll battle him again another time, and the fulfillment of said promise comes to play here. It shows how Ash prioritizes his promise to a nobody, someone who didn't even make it to the league, over his shot at even participating, while Alan shows no consideration or regard for Trevor, knocking out his Pokemon with his strongest ace. The tiers of trainers that exist in the Pokemon world is an idea communicated by the likes of Trevor and Everett. Through Everett, we have a trainer who, despite not acquiring 8 badges in time, showed that he is still capable of expert battling. While on the other hand, we have Trevor demolished by Alan, despite being qualified to enter the league, but lost simply because there was a large power gap between them. Then at last, we are given the true major crux of the episode. Unlike Alan, Ash doesn't see his opponents as a springboard or a roadblock to his goals. He goes out of his way to thank, honor, and acknowledge his opponents to someone he didn't even know, someone who didn't even make it to the league, and even made him late. He's a nobody, to put it simply. A nobody that amazingly displays Ash's altruism as shown by the smile on his face, compared to Alan, who utterly flattens Trevor and would do so for his future opponents. We are shown that Ash is on par with Alan in terms of status at the league as he proceeds to one-shot Titus. And while many fans wish to see the rest of the battle, the narrative effect is set in stone. Like Alan, Ash is one of the top trainers who is anticipated to win the league, and we are hinted that as foils, they will battle at some point. They both one-shotted their opponents, but they diverge in that Ash gave time to honor Everett while Alan trampled Trevor carelessly. And without this, we won't be able to see the payoff in XY's climax. The arc where everything the series has touched upon thematically ties together. There's a moment in XYZ 44 where the contrast is brought back into focus again, this time in more pressing and world-threatening matters. Having realized that he was partially responsible in the crisis, his worldview is shattered as he ponders on the pointlessness of pursuing such a fruitless goal, how it brought nothing but harm to himself and the ones he cared about. However, it's because of Ash that he doesn't stay down because of this. Instead of belittling and criticizing him over his needless pursuit of power, he chooses to pull him out of his internal conflict and remind him of what's important now, speaking out on the love he has for this world and the people around him. He shows in a moment of inspiration why he has always been the better trainer out of the two, in that he isn't someone who would push away the people he cares about. He isn't the kind of person who would trample other people's dreams for his own benefit. He didn't become the kind of person that would endlessly pursue power. He's the kind of person who would consider a conversation with a stranger the most important thing in this world. To conclude in a nutshell, XYZ32 is effective in what it aims to accomplish, using contrast to establish the differences between Ash and Alan. It offers some subtle introspect towards the class and tiers of trainers in the Pokemon world. It also affirms characters' motivations, drives and goals, and some hinting towards the plot's direction, all within 24 minutes of runtime. And that is the importance of XY's Kalos League opening. Appreciated thanks for listening in.